Okay, hello. Welcome to a tutorial on how to edit your WordPress website with Cornerstone. So Cornerstone is a visual builder that is bundled with ProTheme, but actually the very first thing, if you want to change how your website works, you can go under this Pro tab and scroll to the bottom, and the WordPress Bakery page builder is a different visual builder that you can use if you're like, you know what, I really don't like Cornerstone. The thing is, because of these visual builders and how they work, if you want to use one over the other, then you'll need to redo your work. So make your decision early and then just move forward with it. So you can either commit to one or commit to the other. But if you change midway through, then you're going to lose all of your work and have to go back to it. The reason is these visual builders keep code within themselves. And so all you're doing really in WordPress is you're building a new page, you're writing a blog post, you're adding certain things, and then they just have these little snippets that say they're inside of brackets, and they're just like, okay, cool, we'll just run the code that you tell us to. So these plugins, whether it's WordPress Bakery or Cornerstone, are the things that control your website. So let's go over Cornerstone and just talk about where you can set things up, how you can set things up, etc. So this is my personal site, and I'm going to start with theme options. Okay, this is something totally different, so I'm actually going to go back and deactivate that because I don't want people to get confused. Also, if you find that the page is stuck on that spinning wheel forever, then you may want to deactivate this SiteGround Optimizer or any other caching plugin that you have. So I'm going to go ahead and deactivate mine. And that CSS thing that you saw was also this WordPress accessibility. Okay, so there's a couple ways to go into it. Here's Cornerstone up here. So I'm just going to go here into theme options. All right. So here on the left, this is the stack. So there's a couple different styles, which is why I like Cornerstone so much. They come with 4 different stacks. So I'm running Integrity. Most of the websites that I build use the Renew, but you can change it to be whatever you want. It just changes some things. It's not like hugely important, but some of them have certain features and others of them don't. Layout and design, I pretty much always design with a full width layout, 88%, 1200 site max width. Background color is white or transparent. Maybe it's black, who knows. I don't use any of the rest of this. Breakpoints, if you know what they are, great. It's basically just how your website responds to smaller images. Smaller screen sizes. So you can see here, that's 1200 pixels. And then here's a laptop. Here's iPad. Here's a horizontal phone. Here's portrait phone. Now, these don't exactly work because the breakpoints also don't take into account this sidebar. So always make sure that you double check on your live site. Typography, usually I'll have enabled the font manager, and you'll either see 16 straight down or it'll scale up at 18 and 20 just to make it really big, because that's just personally how I design things. But it totally doesn't matter. I would recommend that you just stick with a 16 point font, 16 pixel font. Body content, Montserrat. Heading content, Avril. I mean, this is literally just how to change your body and your headers and footers. But a lot of this actually gets overwritten by Cornerstone site links. So this is all like for your standard like WordPress posts, which would go into your blog. That's where you're kind of setting up these things. Content font size would be 1.6. So you can see it just gets a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. Buttons, again, this button actually has nothing to do with this. So transparent, this should be a pill because I use pills on my website. Header content usually gets overwritten. Footer content may or may not get overwritten. This one it is overwritten. Blog you can leave alone. Portfolio, if you have it, you can turn it on, or if you don't need it, turn it off. Social almost never gets used. unless you're running with a standard header and footer. And then miscellaneous, scroll top anchor. I mean, most of that you can leave alone. So that's the theme options. Pretty straightforward. Down here, which actually your installation might look like this. So as you can see, you can literally just click and drag and move it to the bottom if you like it, or you can leave it on the left. Either way, you hit this little hamburger, then we can go into fonts. And so you can see I have Montserrat, Abril, PT, Sans Narrow, Georgia. I am not personally sure why I have so many fonts. It is best to use 2, maybe 3 fonts. And then don't load in anything that you don't need. So I don't need these. I don't know why they exist, but I'm going to leave them there because I don't want to break my site. If you want to change your font, change Georgia, you can go in here. And this generally just pulls from Google Fonts, or if you have an Adobe Fonts, you can pull that in. And so, you can get all of your fonts, not all of them, but a good amount of fonts that are available to you from Google Fonts, which is great. If you want to, you can add a custom font, and then you have to import font files. And then down here are your colors. So these are arbitrary names. I could have named it blue, and then instead of charcoal, I could have named it gray, black, white, brand secondary, link. Totally arbitrary. You literally just click in and name it blue if you want. It takes all types of values, so you could do it like this, or you could do like an RGB, which is 00255 for a blue. You could do RGBA, or just select this slider down here if you want it to be semi-transparent. And the reason that is nice is because it changes your colors across your website. So if you decide to go with a new primary color, then it will change your website everywhere that color is used, which is fun. And it's really helpful when you're redesigning your site and you don't want to have to go through every little thing and change it. So now let's talk about editing pages. So this is the home page, my home page. We've got a headline, and the headline is probably going to be the element that you use the most. And generally, if you click whatever is set with the border around it, you'll see is what you're clicking into to edit on the left here. So you got headline, and then if I move my mouse over, it goes to column, which you'll see reflected up here in your breadcrumbs. So this headline is inside of a column, it's inside of a row, it's inside of a section, which I have arbitrarily named hero. And then a button element, headline, text element, another button element, another headline element, another headline element. So you can see kind of how these things are going. So let's build something from scratch so that you can really see what's going on. So in here, because I don't really care to leave this builder, I'm just going to go into this bottom corner. You saw me click page builder, and then the plus sign, sample page, and you can see the slug is sample page. So if someone wanted to visit this website, they'd go to kjrelke.online/sample page. And then where it says default template, I like to use the no container header footer. If you want to use the container header no footer, you can totally do that, and it just changes what that looks like, and I'll show you here in a minute. But I'm going to create the page and load it up. Great. How would you like to start? So you can start from scratch. You can use a template. You can clone existing. So let's talk about these templates first. Here's the template. So you got starter templates, which just have these feature boxes and things, which is really nice. But the real power of this is actually the design cloud. So if you click on any of these down below, you can see, wow, that looks amazing. Fit and finish. Okay, great. So let's say I want to do that and then go from there. So I'm just going to click that, and it's going to say installing down here in the bottom right, and then boom, there it is. Wonderful. It got installed, and you can see it's got my header that I had built and my footer that I had built. Amazing. Now, this is interesting because when you're using Design Cloud things, they're going to come in with a bunch of custom code so that you know what's going on. Because I'm pretty sure in this introduction, okay, so they're using the grid, which instead of a row, and they're using a cell, then they have a headline row, and then word. Okay, cool. And I don't see any custom CSS, which is interesting. So, headline, headline scroll effects right there. Effect, scroll, transform. So here you can start to see some of the actual like code per se. So you don't necessarily need to know what they are, but knowing this is going to actually help you think like a developer and know where to go to troubleshoot it, right? I mean, it's kind of like, if you think about it like a house, it's kind of like, oh, I don't necessarily know how electricity is run through my house, but I do know that if something happens to the electricity, like one of the plugs in my house, where to go to look for that. I'm going to look on the outlet to see if there's a reset button. I'm going to look at the breaker box to see if a breaker got flipped. And if not, then I'm going to call some people. So the reason I like this is it starts to help to get you familiar with actually how the web works, and then hopefully help you troubleshoot what that is without having to type all of the code yourself, unless you want to, which is it's also really good for that. So this is a headline. We create spaces where your team can flourish. So we'll go here, click on the headline, and right here, there's an HTML tag and content. So content is we. So I'm just going to change this to I. Create. And I'm going to click over here on spaces. Click here. Websites. Where that people love. To. And finally, use. Get started. So you can see he's got a background here. I'm just going to make this my brand secondary background. And you can see then how the colors come in there. I could set a link to, /home or whatever. You could change the size. Here's the design. So it has a little bit of margin and some padding. Border radius, I'm actually going to give this 10 pixels. So it's a little more rounded. Box shadow, instead of that, I'm going to use, so this has base and interaction. Interaction is like when you hover over something. So I'm going to use this light blue. Boop. Great. And then over here on the image, instead of these stairs, I can create a picture that I upload, and literally you can just drag and drop any old thing to be in here. So I'm going to use my face. Okay. And these colors all need to change. So just go in here, probably use this dark blue. Dark blue. So you get it, right? This is how you go through and edit your thing so that it feels branded. Okay. Then over here, there's a tiny headline, so you can see how versatile this headline is. So I'm going to say over font, I use Montserrat. Okay. And then on the top here, Chateau Moderne, Abril. And I'm going to say my face. Oh yeah, I need to actually go down here to the subline and write Dallas, Texas. Cool, so I've made a significant amount of changes. So I'm going to go to the bottom right here and click save. but it's connected to this bar. So if your bar is on the left, it's going to be at the bottom left of your screen. Save. And then maybe I want to look at it on the actual website. So I can hit this little arrow and hit view on front end. Opens up in a new tab. Wow. Fit and finish. And then that whole thing. Great. So then we can go down. And this is a whole new section, right? So new section, fit and finish. If you're into DIY, yep. And then this is a headline, so you can see. Go away. It's got the graphic option enabled. So div, we treat our right angle seriously. Amazing pun. And then down here, you can't actually see where the graphic is. So if you expand this graphic icon, then you can select from any of these options. So you could change it to a bicycle if you wanted. And actually, if you were like, oh, I don't actually want it to look like that, then you can go back and hit the undo button, and that will undo your work. So that's just kind of a basic overview. But I'm actually going to take a minute and take a break away from these options here on the left and explain actually how HTML, CSS go together. Please take note of this HTML tag. We have P, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, div, span. And if I were to say this is my actual homepage, if I wanted to build a new section, so introduction, great, services, great. Then down here, if I wanted a recent posts, so you can see we've got a section here, and then choose a layout or a template. So again, let's click template, and it pulls this whole thing up again, which is great. But let's say I want to build it from scratch, so I want to pick just a one column. Okay. Then I click inside of here, and it's got this little boxy thing. And on the left, I got add element. So you can have an accordion, an alert, audio, breadcrumbs. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do. Mega menu drop down if you wanted to put a menu right there. I don't really know why. There's a quote if you want to put a quote there. They usually come in with some pre-configured options. Code snippet. So you got lots of classic things, which the classic ones are going to look a little different. So I'd recommend that you stay away from them. Widget area, text, testimonial, tabs. What's this tabs option? Oh, nice. Literally just tabs. So yeah, so that's it. So that's what it's going to look like. So probably you're going to start with a headline. Okay, great. And I'm going to save, which actually sometimes, yeah, I hit Command S or Control S, and that works. So let's take a break and jump into what the actual code is going to look like and kind of understanding all of these options here if they're not immediately understandable to you, because it can be kind of overwhelming.